Good afternoon. My name is Marty Harding. I am the chair of the board of Northwoods and Waters of the St. Croix Heritage Area. We promote the natural, cultural, and historic resources of the St. Croix River watershed, and I'd like to welcome you all to this webinar when we learn about Project Wingspan and how we can help increase pollinator habitat here in the watershed, but beyond in Minnesota, in Wisconsin, and across the nation. So I welcome all of our partners and all of you as we join together to hear about Project Wingspan. So St. Croix River watershed, for those of you that don't live here, we are 8,000, almost 8,000 square miles. We span the Minnesota and Wisconsin sides of the river, the St. Croix River, which is a wild and scenic river. And you can go to the next slide, advance us to the next slide, please.
I might be prevented from that. I might have stopped being a co-host when Laura became a co-host.
Oh, Laura, can you make sure that she's a co-host? And
it's showing that Tova is a co-host.
Do you have to click on the screen, the Zoom?
Let's just, yep.
There you go.
There we go. Thank you so much. So you can see what looks like the map of Africa is actually the map of the St. Croix watershed. As you can see, we have big rivers. We have 12 major tributaries of the St. Croix River, especially including a river in its own right, the Namakagon River. So we have almost 8,000 miles of river miles. And so if you're a kayaker or a paddler, please come and visit us and see the beauty that is our St. Croix watershed. So the St. Croix master watersheds, you're going to hear from Tova in just a moment. She is a master watershed steward herself. The watershed stewards work in partnership with Northwoods and Waters with a mission of dramatically increasing environmental stewardship ethics and activities in the St. Croix watershed. Tova?
Thanks, Marty, and thank you all for being here. Yes, I'm a master watershed steward. I live in the watershed, and to me, I kind of always think like our watershed looks a little bit like a heart, and it's definitely sort of this important piece of a huge network. And I would like to just take that network theme as we're talking about different partnerships and different work that we all can do on big or little spectrum, and add it all together. We have this incredible synergistic effect just by, connecting and finding these partnership opportunities. So as we go through, I want to definitely send a huge shout out, thank you to our sponsors. I'm going to be buzzing through these slides, taking a page out of some of our pollinator books because I don't want to go over time, but there are mission statements for the Pollinator Friendly Alliance, for Rotary, and for Tropical Wing. We can check these slides out after the presentation. I want to just lift up that all of the missions have both a local and an international or global aspect to them. So we're acting locally, but we're cognizant that just like the St. Croix runs into the Mississippi, which runs into the Gulf of Mexico, the work that we do has, these cascading or rippling implications. And I have this tropical wing slide up to show kind of like they're all the tributaries coming into the St. Croix. We've got all these different networks of our sponsors, of St. Croix Master Watershed Stewards. We all have all these connections, and bringing all of those together gives us amazing power to create really amazing things for our little pollinator buddies. So I will come back to that as I jump through. I want to stop in at how we got to where we are today. So speaking of partnerships, in 2015, 3 different federal agencies, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, U.S. Forest Service, and the National Park Service, created this pollinator partnership right here in the St. Croix Watershed in the proposed North Woods and Waters St. Croix National Heritage Area. And so we had quite a lot of excitement built around that, politicians, larger corporations, and a lot of really good momentum because the pollinator partnership is super simple and super inclusive. And it's based on bringing people together, letting everybody do what they can do for the watershed, for pollinators, and for creating habitat and healthier land and water. And all of that coming together, creating, again, this larger effect than any of us could do by ourselves. So what is Operation Pollination about? Well, it's a resolution and a pledge, and sorry, you can't really read this. Ideally, you read before you sign. That's my lawyer background talking, but I will tell you, since it's a little bit fuzzy, that we are, lifting up some of our better known buddies like the monarchs and the Carner Blue, and also near to my ag law heart, talking about how pollinators are vital to our food system, to our flowers, and all of that is in the resolution. So if you feel like the resolution resonates with you, you sign the pledge. And in addition to name and number, you've got a commitment. So something that you or your organization is going to do to support pollinators. And that can be as simple as taking some milkweed pods and planting them in the backyard of your home or business, or it can be much bigger, but really it's meant to be a very inclusive, very simple process. And then you can see that we've got big and little corporations, nonprofits, all sorts of entities and individuals who are already on board and already signing on. You can see our sponsors, the Rotary, Pollinator Friendly Alliance. We don't have tropical wings on here. And I also noticed that my University of Wisconsin is not right under University of Minnesota. So we've got names to add, it's growing bigger, and we keep on keeping on and adding pledge signers all the time. So it's really a great network, and there's a lot of experiential knowledge and a lot of partnership potential for whatever size project you want to do. And it is that simple. Really any kind of effort, from building habitat to really multiple options here. You do a read through the resolution, sign the pledge, take your action, and then your partner name goes on the back of the pollinator resolution. And this can be a great way to sort of lift up an action or get some more media attention for something else that your organization is already doing. And so that's another little added bonus for some of these efforts. I had said you can be really small. You can also dream big and go big. And so I've got an example of a grant that was received from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation in 2016. And then you can see by the bottom of the slide in 2017, there's over 1,000 acres of rich and diverse pollinator habitat planted on formerly unused land. So really any size project, and if you've got a big idea or a big dream, there are pollinator partners who might be able to share some experiential knowledge and help out with that. And again, on the big and on the connected National Heritage Area landscapes all over the country, and as we think of migratory patterns of monarchs, et cetera, just getting sort of a national view, I think, is useful. And just another note that North Woods and Waters is working on filling that empty space up in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So we're on it, we're working on it, getting a National Heritage Area up here. But there are 55 currently designated National Heritage Areas around the US, many more proposed. And these are the ones that have expressed interest in engaging in Operation Pollination. So if you look at those orange dots and you think about migration patterns, you think about our pollinator buddies, and you think about all these little efforts and how they can match up, not just in our watershed, but all across the states, we've got the potential to have a really momentous, really beneficial effect. And I'm going to close with just talking about some projects near and dear to, well, my neighborhood and my heart. And like this little guy, starting small and then spreading our wings. And so in the St. Croix Watershed, St. Croix Master Watershed Steward Gladys Sipple is working on busting buckthorn. She's taking out invasives and restoring native oak savanna at the Carpenter Nature Center. And of course, the oak savanna is where a lot of our springtime ephemerals, some of that first nectar and pollen, all important to pollinators, comes in. And we've got the Kinney River Land Trust, which has several key preserve areas going into the St. Croix. So the Kinnickinnic is a river that's a St. Croix tributary. And this is the Kelly Creek up at the top of the Kinnickinnic. Kinney River Land Trust is in the process of acquiring community forest land right near River Falls. And they are doing some really cool things, preserving land, creating habitat like this for our pollinator friends. We've also got the University of Wisconsin, and this was flashback to the Tropical Wings Partners, partly funded by Tropical Wings Habitat Grant. So that synergy again at work. University students mentoring high school students working on this project. So there's an education aspect. And then this is a just local landowner in the St. Croix County and amateur beekeeper. So you can see the little lady on the goldenrod is not a native pollinator. She's European descent, like some of us, but she shares 5 acres of restored prairie pollinator habitat with the native birds, butterflies, bees. And then in the middle is a hop yard that instead of dead mulch in between the hops has living mulch and milkweed, and you can see that little guy feasting on the milkweed there. So all the different opportunities, you can have active agricultural land, you can have education areas, schools, etc. And these are just some of the ideas that people have come up with for Operation Pollination, some of that partner work. And in the interest of expanding our partnerships further, I am turning it over to Project Wingspan.
Perfect. All right. And is my screen showing as I hope? Wonderful. All right. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you today virtually, and sincerely hope you and your loved ones are doing well during these uncertain times. Pollinator Partnership would like to extend a huge thank you to the Operation Pollination team for their support of Project Wingspan and inviting us to deliver this webinar to you regarding how Project Wingspan is spreading seeds and wings across the St. Croix watershed and beyond. We're really thrilled to have the opportunity to share about our project and invite you to join us in this innovative, large-scale conservation initiative in making on-the-ground change for our imperiled pollinators. And so I'm Amber Barnes, who's speaking right now, and I'm a wildlife conservation ecologist and program coordinator for Pollinator Partnership. And I'm also joined today by Kyla Tripp and Laura Smith, our state coordinators for Project Wingspan in Minnesota and Wisconsin. So before we jump into the details of Project Wingspan, first we thought it might be helpful to share a little bit about P2's background. We are a science-based nonprofit conservation organization, and over the past 23 years, we've worked in collaboration with multiple stakeholders on a variety of programs to support the health of pollinators and their habitats. And through many of our collaborative efforts, we've helped create and enhance tens of thousands of acres of habitat throughout the United States, Canada, and beyond. And we believe in the big tent philosophy and collaborate with scientists, researchers, conservationists, government officials, dedicated volunteers, and others to keep pushing progress forward on pollinator issues. Together, we find real solutions to many of today's complex conservation challenges. And whether it's trainings like the ones that we provide through Project Wingspan, a school garden kit ordered, an outreach event staffed by P2 staff or volunteers, or interpretive signage near habitat, educating about pollinators and what you can do to help them is one of our top priorities. And P2 also conducts true science and believes in making sure that actions are backed by science. Our in-house researchers and staff work to provide credible, authentic, and useful guides and information. And P2 works with policymakers on both sides of the aisle, and we advocate for funding to support pollinator protection. So from technical habitat creation guides and informational brochures to educational programs, working groups, and planting resources, P2 likely has a program or resource to support you in your goals, and all of which can be found at pollinator.org. So now that you have an idea of who P2 is and what we're all about, we're going to transition into helping you understand what Project Wingspan is working to accomplish. In short, we want to see more beautiful, diverse habitat like that pictured here on the landscape, and we're working with a multitude of partners in the St. Croix Watershed and beyond to help make that happen. Project Wingspan is a 3-year, large-scale conservation effort under the direction of P2, which is being fueled by local grassroots actions and are taking place throughout the Great Lakes and Midwest region. And Project Wingspan is funded by the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation and collaborates with a robust team of core and satellite partners in each state. The overall goal of Project Wingspan is to increase the quality, quantity, and connectivity of imperiled pollinator habitat areas across the Midwestern and Great Lakes landscape. And this project focuses mainly on addressing the needs of the monarch butterfly and the rusty patch bumblebee, although the impacts definitely help other species as well. So as you may know, the iconic monarch butterfly and its spectacular migration are in jeopardy. Their North American numbers have suffered a steep decline of approximately 90% over the past 2 decades. And in 2014, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service was petitioned to protect the monarch butterfly under the Endangered Species Act, with the listing decision expected for December 2020. Research has shown that the Midwest and Great Lakes region is essential to producing offspring for the migratory generation that makes its way to Mexico for overwintering. And it's clear that actions to support monarchs in these important breeding grounds can help support this declining species. And like the monarch, the rusty patch bumblebee was a common species about 20 years ago, with a range across 28 states and 2 Canadian provinces, which you can see in gray on the displayed map. Rusty patch bumblebee populations have also seen a swift decline since the 1990s, which earned it placement on the endangered species list in 2017. And the species is now only been observed in a few small patches of populations across what is estimated to be only 0.1% of its historical range. And because of these focus species, the native plants that we're targeting for this project are monarch larval host plants and plants that provide high quality pollen and nectar to the monarch butterfly, the rusty patch bumblebee, and other imperiled pollinators. So our approach is to train volunteers to collect regionally appropriate seed from a specific target list. Then we have the seed cleaned and inspected, stored, and some is diverted to be grown as plants. And then we redistribute the seed and plants back to the region of origin after thorough vetting, while offering trainings to landowners and managers and securing letters of commitment from folks like you to maintain your pollinator habitat. Seeds will be collected in bioregions in each of the participating states, and the seed collected in a particular bioregion will be returned to that state's same bioregion. And so now I'll go over kind of Project Wingspan in a nutshell. We are training volunteers to collect seed and forming them into seed collection teams. We've provided both in-person and online training opportunities for those interested in becoming a certified seed collection volunteer for Project Wingspan. However, with the current pandemic situation, right now we're only offering the online training option. And through Project Wingspan online training, participants gain lifelong skills related to native plants by learning plant identification, best management practices of seed collection, and data collection protocols. The seed collected by teams is dried and coarsely cleaned and then shipped to Mason State Nursery, a DNR facility in Illinois, to be sorted, further cleaned, temporarily stored, and some of that is grown into plugs. While this is going on, we're seeking individuals, organizations, and agencies with at least 1 acre of land that are actively or planning to enhance their lands for pollinators and encouraging them to submit their habitat areas into Project Wingspan's online habitat survey. The habitat survey can be found on our website, and there you'll find questions related to your present pollinator habitat situation, as well as questions about your future pollinator habitat enhancement projects. Ultimately, the seed and/or plants produced are awarded to conservation projects vetted and identified through the habitat survey, as well as through our project partners. And although everyone who fills out the habitat survey can get although not everyone who fills out the habitat survey can get awards of seed and/or plugs, all participants will be provided with information and training resources to assist them in reaching their long-term habitat goals. We also had planned to hold land steward workshops in select states where one could further their understanding of habitat creation, restoration, and enhancement, and long-term management techniques. But to ensure the safety of all participants and adhere to current social gathering limitations, these in-person workshops are currently on hold and may transform into a webinar series, depending on the status of health and safety recommendations in the coming months. So who can help with this project? Well, all sorts of people. It's really easy. To join a collection team, one must be 16 years of age or older and complete our online or in-person training. And we're partnering with individuals, organizations, universities, and agencies throughout our 8-state seed collection target area. And we'd love to have you join us in this fun and meaningful effort. And seed collection really is a fun social event that's compliant with CDC recommended physical distancing standards. And this not only teaches great skills, but also develops a greater and deeper connection and understanding of our natural areas. Nature provides a place for us to escape, reflect, recharge, and find inspiration during tough times. In fact, several of our volunteers have shared with us that this time outdoors helps melt away some of their stress and also gives them a sense of accomplishment and satisfaction in that they're able to affect real change regarding an issue that they're passionate about. And of course, the health and safety of our volunteers, neighbors, friends, and employees is of the utmost importance to Pollinator Partnership. And with this in mind, we have provided all of our volunteers with some guidelines and recommendations to ensure that where able, our teams can still actively participate in Project with peace of mind during the COVID-19 pandemic. And while plant identification and seed collection skills that we train in are critical for the proper stewardship of natural areas through our project, we also hope the participants will use these skills on their own lands and apply them to other local conservation efforts they engage with in their communities into the future. And a few examples of the partnerships we've been able to form are with national wildlife refuges, land trusts and conservancies, master gardeners and master naturalists, Pheasants Forever chapters, state and local parks, universities, military installations, and many others who are interested in joining a ready-to-go project that's helping to further pollinator conservation. Project Wingspan launched in Wisconsin and other states last year, But with further funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, we're thrilled to be able to expand into Minnesota starting this year. And our state coordinators are actively building the seed collection and distribution effort in each of our target states. So now I'm going to turn this presentation over to Kyla and Laura, who will tell you a little bit more about what's going down in your states.
Thank you, Amber. Can everybody hear me? Perfect. It's great to see so many people on the call who are enthusiastic about pollinators. And as Amber mentioned, my name is Kyla Tripp, and I'm the Minnesota State Coordinator for Project Wingspan. I started with Pollinator Partnership this spring to begin realizing our Project Wingspan goals in Minnesota. So compared to Wisconsin many of the other states involved with Project Wingspan, Minnesota is still in the early stages of growth, and we're looking for all types of project contributors: seed collection volunteers, seed collection sites, and habitat survey participants who would be eligible to receive our seed awards. Slide. Minnesota is divided into 3 collection zones through Project Wingspan. These collection areas are loosely mirror Minnesota's ecozones and county lines. The northern Project Wingspan collection zone, shown in green, roughly encompasses the northern lakes and forest ecozone, as well as the northern Minnesota wetland ecozone. The central blue collection zone loosely encompasses the central hardwood forest. And lastly, the golden yellow color in the south encompasses the driftless area and northern glaciated plains. It's also worth noting that there's a portion of northwest Minnesota which is not included in our collection region because it represents another ecozone which is not super abundant in Minnesota and would require a whole different collection and different set of target species. Slide. As I mentioned earlier, I'm in the first year of building partnership and assembling teams of trained volunteers, so I'm eagerly looking for additional connections and partnerships to help further establish this project and make some early headway. So this map shows some of the progress I've made and the location of team leads, which are in green, volunteers, which are in yellow, as well as Project Wingspan partners who may have helped with marketing or sharing information, and potential seed collection locations, which are in blue, and those partners are in red, which I might have missed. Slide. Of course, projects like these are not possible without fantastic partners like those who are hosting this call today through Operation Pollination, and the partners you see on your screen will be the first major group of partners to come on board in Minnesota and support our work. Slide. On top of the great contributions by the Operation Pollination partners, I have many additional partners in the works who are contributing to Project Wingspan in different ways. For example, the Girl Scouts of the River Valleys have volunteered 2 of their camp properties for collections this summer. Partners associated with the Prairie Enthusiasts have submitted pollinator habitat sites to the Habitat Survey in order to potentially receive seed awards, and many volunteers have found us through the Isaac Walton League in Duluth. So if you'd like to get involved with Project Wingspan in Minnesota as a seed collection volunteer, a team lead, or if you'd like to involve your land with Project Wingspan, I would love to hear from you. Over to you, Laura.
Okay, thanks, Kyla. Everyone can hear me okay? All right, well, as Amber mentioned, my name is Laura Jack-Smith. I'm the Wisconsin State Coordinator for Project Wingspan. I just came on board this past spring, taking over the efforts of Angie Doucette, who is the state coordinator for Wisconsin last year. Next slide. So in June of 2019, Project Wingspan really started building momentum when we held an in-person volunteer workshop at the Horicon Marsh National Wildlife Refuge to train volunteers as seed collectors or team leads. And by the summer, we had our first teams established and started holding seed collection events. During that same time, we had participants from multiple agencies, private landowners, and land managers from land trusts entering their property into the online habitat survey. And from there, our planning ecologist was able to conduct 12 site visits and evaluations in Wisconsin and began vetting sites to receive plant seed or plugs from Project Wingspan. Overall, in 2019, Wisconsin teams collected about 89 ounces of clean seed. This year, we hope to exceed that as we already have 6 teams established and we're still growing. We just had our first collection of the year this last weekend and have a lot more planned for the coming months. September and October are the big seed collecting months here in Wisconsin, where many of our target species are ripe for seed harvesting. Next slide. So between last year and this year, we've gotten a number of organizations to partner with Project Wingspan, including the Ozaukee Washington Land Trust, the Kettle Moraine Land Trust, River Edge Nature Center, Dane, Milwaukee, Walworth, and Washington County Parks, the Chequamegon Nicolet National Forest, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and the Wisconsin DNR. And we have a number of organizations that are in the process of working with us, and I didn't even have time to update this slide. We have Cedar Lakes just came on with us in this last week. So you can see on my map here, we have a number of teams in the southeastern parts of the state, and we're just getting started in the northern part of the state this year. But we could really use your help. You can see from my map, we really need volunteers in the northern and western parts of the state. And so we're hoping that some of you today will be interested in becoming a trained volunteer or team lead or serve as a collection site to host some of our seed collector volunteers. So if you're interested or have any questions, please contact me and I will get you set up. And with that, Amber, I'll turn it back to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura and Kyla. So yeah, if you're looking for a project that you can plug into, we'd love to have you join us in making a difference for our imperiled pollinators. And pollinator habitat not only provides resources for pollinators that nest, rest, and feed there, but it also promotes broader increased biodiversity both above and below ground by creating a place for birds, mammals, insects, and other wildlife that are suffering from loss of habitat as well. These plants and their deep roots also assist with soil stability, carbon sequestration, and water infiltration. So really, the list goes on and on. And that's what's really incredible and inspiring about working to enhance pollinator habitat. It's that this one action can have a really big impact across a number of other conservation and community issues. Across the 3 years of this project, our goals for Project Wingspan are to train 250 seed collection volunteers, gather 1,550 collections across the entire focus region, grow over 13,000 plugs from collected seed, secure over 15,000 acres of high quality habitat, hold 16 in-person training workshops, if able, and distribute seed and plugs from the program to enhance and reconnect fragmented habitat. And we know this is possible because we've met success in a similarly structured past program called Monarch Wings Across the Eastern Broadleaf Forest, which ran from 2016 to 2019. Through that program, we held 11 in-person trainings, a live webinar, and launched our online training module. And through those efforts, we were able to train 327 seed collection volunteers throughout our target states who harvested 368 seed collections, resulting in about 100 pounds of clean seed and over 11,000 seedlings propagated. And the seed and plugs generated from those volunteer collection efforts had an estimated value of over $71,000. And through the habitat survey and partnerships, we were also able to secure over 27,000 acres of monarch habitat through long-term management agreements, which exceeded our goal by over 23,000 acres. We conducted 97 in-person habitat evaluations and consultations, held 5 in-person technical trainings for land managers across our project states, which ended up training 175 land managers. We also developed a 7-part online habitat creation and management webinar series. And because of the incredible efforts and generosity of our volunteer collection teams and partnering collection locations, we were able to award volunteer-generated seed or plugs free of charge to 44 projects identified through the habitat survey and our partners. And an additional 21 projects received funds to enhance their habitat through seed, plugs, and invasive species control through that project. And Kyla.
So it's my pleasure to kind of outline how you can get involved. So one of the first ways you can get involved is to become a trained volunteer team lead, data collector, or seed collector in any of our target states. You can let our teams collect seed from your land, help us spread the word about Project Wingspan, whether it's on social media or through any networks you have or newsletters, and you can also use our online resources to learn how to enhance your landscape for our imperiled pollinators. And finally, you can provide donation or sponsorship to our efforts.
All right, so there's a lot of benefits of becoming involved with Project Wingspan as a team lead or volunteer seed collector. Because we have the online training, team leads and seed collectors are trained and coordinated, making Project Wingspan essentially a plug and play project, and makes it really easy to hit the ground running. Our online training can teach or improve your native plant ID skills. You learn responsible seed collecting practices. And these are all lifelong skill sets that you will benefit from as you work on your own landscape or other community projects. You also have access to all of our training materials, which is all conveniently located on our website. And then there are the benefits of serving as a collection site. You will learn more about what's actually growing at your site, and it's a great PR opportunity. We've had several organizations who have gotten more publicity through working with Project Wingspan, and therefore more volunteers and attention to their organization's efforts. If you serve as a collection site, your site is prioritized for receiving some plant materials back for enhancing your pollinator habitat from Project Wingspan. And overall, it's a great way to connect with the conservation community by meeting and networking with new people in the area. We've had some groups come together in Wisconsin where a land trust has volunteers but no seed for their enhancement projects, and another organization had the collection site, but they didn't have any volunteers. And so it's a great way to work across organizational lines and work towards a common goal. Amber?
All right. And we're really fortunate to have an all-star team leading this effort. And you can find bios and contact information for the Project Wingspan team on our website. And much like the name of our nonprofit suggests, partnership is critical to advancing pollinator conservation, and our projects past and present wouldn't be possible without the contributions of many. We're grateful and send a huge thank you to all who have helped us in our mission to improve the landscape for pollinators, and a special shout out to our Operation Pollination and their partners who are collaborating with us on this effort and helping us bring this message to you today. So we welcome you to join us in this effort to spread wings and seeds across the St. Croix and watershed and beyond. And I'm going to leave you with one of my favorite quotes from Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So again, thank you to Operation Pollination for supporting us in this effort, and each and every one of you who have tuned in today to learn more about Project Wingspan. You can find out more about this project or any of P2's other programs and resources on our website. And we look forward to the potential to collaborate with you and hope that the many guides and information on pollinator.org can help meet some of your personal pollinator related goals as well. So now we'll turn it over to Kyla, who's been moderating the question and answer section through the chat, and we can see what we can help clarify or get more information to you in the remaining time.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. I'm gonna go ahead and go through a couple of them that came up, but I'll keep an eye on any new questions that come through as well. One of the things I wanted to note that will answer a couple of the questions that popped up is that we will be sending out a follow-up email to the webinar registrants, which includes this presentation in some form. I think PDF form is what we decided on. It will have the slides as well as links needed to access the different steps for volunteering or becoming a collection site or anything like that. So you'll get more information, but if you just can't wait and you want that URL right now, go ahead and chat in the chat box and we can drop whatever link you need to kind of get started. But one of the first questions that popped up was, forgive me, I'm not sure how to pronounce, is it Isa was wondering how having a heritage area helps this initiative and how we folded the seed collecting and pollinator work into this. So I'm not sure if...
Kyla, this is Marty, and I would actually like to turn that question over to Chris Stein. Chris is single-handedly promoting this whole effort through all of the national heritage areas, and has, I think, 36 out of 55 have already signed up, which is a huge amount of property and land. So, Chris, are you willing to talk about that?
He's muted.
Yeah, he's muted.
Chris.
He's muted.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Marty.
no,
I appreciate turning it over to me.
Thanks, Chris.
As I understand it, the question is, how can an effort like this help national heritage areas? Well, everyone on this call knows that protecting pollinators is a national conservation priority project. And so getting national heritage areas involved with this is an important, excuse me for some background noise from my kids, by the way. Anyway, getting involved in a national conservation priority project is important to help show that national heritage areas are contributors to large landscape conservation initiatives across the United States. And a project like this could actually help attract attention from our national leaders that national heritage areas are an important part of the overall conservation landscape. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And I just think about it as chair of North Woods and Waters, that we have partners all throughout the whole watershed, large and small, who can be encouraged to participate in Operation Pollination and in seed collection and habitat restoration. And so it's not that heritage areas are not environmental organizations, but we promote the natural, historical, and cultural resources, of which certainly our plants, our pollinators, fit into all three of those categories. And so it's a natural fit for us. And what helps us is that we have our master watershed stewards they are an environmental organization and have it really closely tied to their mission as our lead organization.
Perfect. Thank you, Marty and Chris. The next question will be from Judy, and probably for Amber, and she was asking, is Iowa involved?
All right. No, we do not currently, we're not currently working in Iowa. So our target range is limited by the geography that the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation was prioritized as regions, as well as how many, what capacity we could expand to. And we definitely looked at Iowa and would love to grow into that state in the future, but under the current program right now, we're not working in that state.
Perfect. And one of the next questions was from Kim. Where can we get more details about the site, volunteers, trainers in the metro area of Minnesota? And that question would perhaps be for me. So you can reach out to me at my email and I can post it in the chat here. So you can reach out directly to the state coordinators, but we'll also follow up with that email that has like the first steps to become a volunteer or to first step that you need to take to become a collection site. It'll have more information that will be routed. Even though it's a general website, it will be routed to each specific state coordinator depending on where you're coming from. So hopefully that answers your question. And we don't have any more in the chat, but if anybody wants to come off mute right now and ask any questions they have, we'd be welcome to answer them.
So this is Judy, and I'm down in Hudson, and I have a group of Rotarians who are interested in this project. So when you schedule the training, is it scheduled for, say, 4 to 6 volunteers? Or do you have a general training and you have those scheduled, and then people who are interested in volunteering join the training session? And then the secondly is, because these are questions they're going to ask me, collection sites, are they going to be in proximity generally to our home community, or could they be like 100 miles away?
Do you want to go ahead and get that one, Amber?
Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely answer generally, and then yeah, Kyla, Laura, please feel free to chime in. So Judy, thank you so much for the question. Yes, in terms of the trainings, until we get the all clear for larger social gatherings, everything will be done online. And so on our website, pollinator.org/Wingspan, we have information on the training module, and it's a 6-step process that people can take at their own leisure. Essentially, you can go onto the website and start it one day, continue it the next, and you can, if you're more of a binge watcher and things like that, you're more than welcome to do it all in one sitting. But we really see it as something that can be done over a week or so, and each individual can kind of do it at their own pace. And one of the last steps is to fill out a contact form. And that lets us know that you've completed the training. That goes to me, and then I process everybody and get them out to their appropriate state coordinator and facilitate those connections, and then our state coordinators follow up. So in terms of that, it's kind of a choose your own adventure, your own pace, do your own thing. But we've definitely, like in Arkansas, we had a group of master naturalists that were all interested in becoming a collection team together. And so they coordinated internally and said, okay, we're all going to complete the collection training this week. And so that way they could be a little bit more organized. And I think they were poking our state coordinator, Sarah, like, hey, has Marcia completed the training yet? No. All right. Well, we'll follow up with her because we really want to get started. So on our side, it's definitely at your own pace, but if people want to do it in a more organized fashion, you know, that can definitely be coordinated, each on their own home computers. And then in terms of collection sites, it definitely varies, especially we aim to have a collection location near every team. So we organize our our volunteers into collection teams under a team lead. And our state coordinators help to locate collection locations that qualify. Sometimes we're very fortunate. There's several phenomenal potential collection locations and team leads, volunteers, and all comes together very naturally. Other times, you know, it comes in kind of like a puzzle. We get a collection site here, but we don't quite have volunteers yet, and we patchwork it together. So it really, especially in Minnesota, we're just getting started. So it's a little bit more patchwork, but as this comes together, we hope to be able to have things closer together. But starting off, you know, Kyla might just say, hey, the collection locations we currently have that are vetted and work out are in these locations. So if you're comfortable, you know, going to those, if it's within a drive, you're more than welcome to attend an event there. And then, you know, as the foundations of this build a little more, you know, we can definitely zero in and have clumps of people near closest to those areas. So Kyla, Laura, anything that I left out or misspoke?
No, I think you described it really well. I was just going to give the example. So like in Milwaukee, Ozaukee, Washington counties, I have a whole bunch of collection sites, and it would be too many for one team to tackle them all. So I have a couple different teams that will do those different collection sites. And then in like the northern part of the state right now, I have a team, and I'm working to get the collection site secured. So sometimes it's a little bit of a, you know, chicken or the egg scenario. Like if I know that there's a team that's working on getting certified, then during that time I would start working with sites in the area and get a permit to and find a collection site. If it's an area where I already have been working a lot, you know, it's likely that there's already collection sites that are ready to go. But if I know that you're planning to get certified and you're excited to get out there, then I'll start working to get a collection site in that area. And the state is big enough that I can't possibly secure all the collection sites in the chance that I get a volunteer in that area. So I usually wait to see that I have some interest in that area, and then I work to secure the collection site.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you both. Okay, so we have 2 more questions that popped up in the chat in a little under 10 minutes. So I think maybe, Amber, this would be a good one for you. It came to me directly through chat or privately, but Ashley said it was okay for me to say it to everybody. She said, you mentioned that when seed is collected from a site, they are prioritized to get seed back. When might it be distributed back to them? For example, in the late fall for seed and spring for plugs. Thanks.
Yeah, bear with me a minute. I'm going to go back a few slides because I have a bit of a diagram that explains this in better than I can verbally say it. Almost there. Okay, so in this slide, it demonstrates kind of our phase 1, phase 2 setup with the 2 different grants that we're operating under right now. And the seasons are it colored kind of. So you've got spring, green, summer, yellow, fall, orange, and winter blue. And so you can see as the, especially in Minnesota, the project started at the end of we officially got funded in like December 2019, started building up our program here in 2020. We have some seed collections, hopefully down the line that will be coming through. And then we have a whole nother seed collection season next year. And so as the seeds get sent to Mason State, they'll be processed and cleaned this year. The next batch will be processed and cleaned. And then during this time in 2021, that's when we'll be going through those habitat surveys, working with our core and our satellite partners to vet and identify programs and projects. And then depending on how many materials we are successful in harvesting over the 2-year period, we'll be disseminating those materials at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And our goal is for either a frost seeding for at the end of winter, beginning of spring 2022, and then with the plugs, those would be distributed in Wisconsin at the end of around the springtime. We work very closely with those who are awarded materials to make sure that their project is ready, shovel ready, all the site prep's been done, the volunteers are coordinated, especially when it comes to the live plant materials, just to make sure that all the pieces are in place. Because, you know, as we showed on that one slide, the materials were valued from the Eastern Broadleaf Forest Project at $71,000. These materials are worth their weight in gold, so we ensure that all of the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted, and that these are going out to projects that are going to have the most success. So yeah, making sure to line up those timelines carefully.
All right, thanks, Amber. And one last question before we wrap up. Lori asked, do we vet the location site before collecting seed to be sure the site has not been drifted with pesticide or treated with pesticides? And I go ahead and pass that to Laura or to Amber.
Okay. Laura, do you want to take that one?
Sure. We do vetting of collection sites. Our main concern is the origin of the plant populations that we're looking at. So we have a requirement that the plant populations are there in at least 50 individuals, and then we prefer remnant or naturally occurring, I think is a good way to say it, populations. And I would say I honestly haven't been confronted with the situation of the site being, you know, having any sort of pesticide treatment. That's not one of my normal questions for the site owners. So I guess it just hasn't come up yet. Usually the sites are, you know, being managed for, you know, as like a restoration or enhancement project. They're naturally occurring. A lot of the places are county parks. You know, they do like prairie burns or buckthorn removal are usually the management techniques that are being used. So far, I have not run into any situations where that has become an issue. So it's not one of my like questions that I ask off a list to the owners, because it just hasn't really come up yet. It's we talk more about where the plants have come from, as in, are they naturally occurring, or if they came from a seeding enhancement project, have the populations been established for at least 5 years, things like that. Amber, did you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that pretty well covered it.
All right, well, that is all the questions that we have in the chat. So who is up last to close out our webinar?
That would be me, Kyla.
Perfect.
So I want to say thank you, of course, to everyone from Project Wingspan, Kyla, Amber, and Laura. You are our new best friends, and welcome you all to helping us here in the St. Croix Watershed restore habitat for our pollinators. Toby, you're the best master of the watershed, and so we are. Thank you, Chris, for cameo performance there on the spot. We appreciate that too. And of course, thank you to all of you for spending an hour with us today to learn a little bit more about what we can do to protect our pollinators.